Hello, everyone. Welcome to End Zone Scoop. Today, we're joined by our good friend from 99 Yards, Stuart Taylor, as the lovely Dana is currently vacationing here in London. So we're going to hold the fort while she's exploring, aren't we? How are you both doing, guys?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on. I've obviously podcasted with Shona previously, but the first time with yourself, Liz. Although I think I'm pretty much a bit of a downgrade from Scott Hansen, I'm afraid, this week.
Well, I mean, we can only try.
Well, yeah, I'm not too bad. My uni course, as some of you know, I'm now studying nursing, is very intense, but it keeps me busy, keeps me out of trouble.
Bless, you'll get there, don't worry. Awesome. Well, we've got loads of topics to get through today. But let's start with the news of the game, the NFL game coming to Germany. So today it was confirmed that there are 3 cities in discussions to host a regular season game. Now, for those, long-term fans of us, there's been 29 games in London since 2007. The 30th is this Sunday at Tottenham. So it's quite interesting, I think, that they're doing this move to Germany. They're looking at Dusseldorf, Frankfurt, and Munich. They're going to now have these deep conversations to see what they can do logistically, because obviously we know ourselves, having witnessed it, what such a huge kind of job it is. Now, I was looking into some of the stats around the NFL in Germany, and that there's 19 million fans. Germany is actually the leading, in terms of countries, is the leading market outside of North America for the NFL shop sales, also fantasy football, and also the sales of Madden. So I think that's quite interesting and kind of proves that it's the right move. And obviously we've seen quite a few German players. Jacob Johnson, he was a regular for the Patriots last season. Plus there is David Bader for Washington, and there's also Aaron Donker for Seattle Seahawks as well. So I think it's good. But how are you guys feeling about the news? And if you got the chance to go to Germany, would you go out there and watch a game?
Well, me and Stuart have talked about this, I think, plenty of times, because we live in the northeast part of Scotland. Well, no, northeast part of Scotland, and it's actually cheaper for us to fly to Germany than it is to London, which sounds absolutely insane when you think of it like that. But yeah, I would love to go over to Germany. I like the fact that they're looking at different cities. I think if you could stage it in more than one city, I think that would be really good, and that's something I think here in the UK that it should be considered as well. I know there's the issue around some stadiums, but I think there's other stadiums in the UK that could hold an NFL event. It's we've seen it before. It's been held at Twickenham. It's been held at Wembley. I know Tottenham is now like an NFL stadium, which is great, but I do think it can be moved about so people can experience it, because I sometimes just can't justify a weekend to London. It's just all too expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely would head to Germany, and particularly, as Shona said, traveling. It's 6 and 2 3s really for cost wise, from going to even sometimes cheaper than going to Germany. Even from Edinburgh, you can get to Munich. From Aberdeen, you can go to Frankfurt. So wherever it ends up. And although I wasn't at London this year, when I have been, there's been a lot of guys that you just get chatting to in bars who've come over from Germany, the Netherlands. I was chatting to a couple of Slovak guys one year. So for those guys, Germany's probably a good option for them as well. Probably even easier to access than London is. So it sounds like there's a market there for it. And I certainly would be up for going over with some pals for that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun, actually. And I remember when the Titans were over, there was a massive crowd of German fans who came over just for that game as well. So I think, like you say, it's already huge there, and it's, great for other areas of Europe as well. So no, I think that's could be a really interesting one. Shona, are you still with us?
Yeah, sorry, my internet likes to play havoc in this room. I think it might be where the router is or something. I'm sorry, I am still here though.
No, don't worry. Why don't you talk us through your thoughts on Kyler Murray?
Well, you actually go talk about the Cardinals, because they are the only team left in the NFL that are still 5-0, which
amazing.
I'm very surprised at, to be honest. My obviously, people know that I'm getting married. So Andy's cousin Ross is a massive Cardinals fan. He's actually best man at our wedding, and he's just had a baby boy. So he's saying it's all because his son's been born. You know, Sam is being the good luck charm. So let's hope it continues for them. You know, it was the Cardinals defense that, you know, that took the game, I think, you know, and that took them to 5-0. They held Trey Lance to 10 points in his NFL starting debut. And, you know, they stopped the 49ers on 4 of their 5 fourth downs attempts. Like that is just incredible stats. And you know that I'm in Data when she's normally on our massive defense team plays. We love the defense. But Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury are actually just proving to everyone that they're, you know, and their doubters really, that they are the real deal. They are, you know, they are here to prove that they can compete in that tough division in the NFC, NFC West. You know, they won the game, and Kyler Murray is saying that the offense still needs to do better. Like that's, you know, that's a winning mentality, and that's what you want from your quarterback. Obviously, they might be without their tight end, Max Williams, because he was carted off the field after taking a hit to the lower leg. That might be a huge miss because him and Murray have developed a really great relationship. But are you guys surprised at how dominant Kyler Murray has been, and has he changed your mind on him, or were you always a fan?
You probably know my answer to this one, Shona. We've talked about it many times. I was not really on the Kyler Murray hype train until this season. I thought he'd done okay since he come in the league, and he played well in fits and starts, but he looks like a total different player this year. And I think their offense can beat you in so many different ways. They've got Kyler Murray. He's for the size of the guy, he's got a huge arm. He's really quick, really dynamic. They've got good combinations from the running back position as well. They've got options in the receiver. They've got one of the best in DeAndre Hopkins. AJ Green looks like he's got a bit of life back in him again. And they've also got Rondale Moore, who's been a really good draft pick as well. He's proven that he could be. You saw some dynamic plays from him this weekend. He had that unbelievable catch on the sideline as well. And yeah, so they've got lots of different ways they can beat teams. And they've improved dramatically on defense as well. That they weren't a great defense previously, but this year they seem to have really tightened up. And I think that that's something that could lead to them doing really well in the making a playoff run. Absolutely, going further possibly. The NFC seems a little bit kind of up in the air. There's not a clear. You've got the Buccaneers obviously, who've been doing well, but there's not a clear dominant team. And why not the Cardinals this year?
I think what they've got right as well is the veterans they brought in, you know, the more experienced guys, that has totally helped change their game this year. You know, last year they were beating the big teams, like they beat the Seahawks, but they still managed to like find games where they just didn't click and they still lost. But they filled those holes with veterans that they needed to fill it in with, I think, and that has proved, you know, very valuable because they're now 5-0.
Yeah, and I think one pickup that can't be undervalued is Rodney Hudson coming in as center, and I'm a bit of an offensive line geek, and seeing this kind of player and what he brings to an offensive line, and that's probably helped Kyler Murray as well. He's got someone who is, calling some of the checks on the defense as well, helping him out from that side of things, and that is again just another part that's added to how well they have done. And
obviously, Liz, your JJ is doing well.
Love JJ. But his jersey is up behind me somewhere. I'm busy, but that's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've kind of always looked at Cardinals in the past as a team that aren't talked about very much, almost like they're not, to me, the team that you almost remember, but at the same time they've absolutely dominated so far this season, and kind of can't obviously take that away from them. So I think they're starting to obviously prove that kind of, you know, area really. So no, I'm excited to see where they go with it. Obviously hope that JJ stays healthy and all that kind of stuff, because he's generally a problematic injury person. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just changing the culture really about the team having those extra new guys in, helping out what's really quite a young team at some of their key parts, and also a young head coach as well. Yeah, so you guys being Seahawks fans can't be that happy with it though.
Oh, it's even worse the fact that half the family that I'm marrying into are Cardinals fans, and they're like, oh, "We're so much better than the Seahawks this year," and I'm like, "Oh God."
Yeah, it's not good. Could be worse. I mean, we're the same. We're both going to be divisional wives, so think we're also on that front. But yeah, it's one of those things.
Well, it's a bit weird because the family is Cardinals, but Andy has decided to go for the Bills, so it's
he did, didn't he?
I don't know where that's come from.
Great choice.
He's like, I don't want to do Cardinals because my family's like Cardinals, and I'm not doing Seahawks because you support them. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, choose your own. He's like, Bills. I'm like, fine.
My household's an even worse mix. My wife's a Cowboys fan. Kids are Jets and Buccaneers, so it's just all over the place in my house. So yeah, there's lots of disagreements about whose team is the best.
I can imagine. Well, speaking of the Bills, Stuart, I know that you've got something you'd like to talk to about on that front.
Yeah, so obviously we all saw what the Bills did on Sunday night against the Chiefs. Looked very impressive in doing so in their 38-20 victory. So really I was thinking, are the Bills now the team to beat in the AFC? And if they are, who's going to stop them? I think that the big game was the Chiefs. They'd wanted this game for a long time. They were really hurting after the playoffs last year, and they really attacked trying to figure out how to beat the Chiefs in the offseason. And the way that teams have done it in the past when they've beat Mahomes is rushing 4, rushing 3, dropping a lot into coverage rather than throwing blitzes at him, because he just picks them off and dissects them really well. And the first 2 picks were defensive linemen, and they looked at that and how they could utilize rotating their line and only pressing Mahomes with that, and it seemed to work this week. It's worked in other games as well. The teams that have done that to Patrick Mahomes have been the teams that's been successful. So the Bills have really thought about how they can win this division and win this conference. And is there anyone that can stop them?
So I don't know. They've got Titans as the next game, isn't it? So I think that could be one that would be a struggle for them. But yeah, I mean, they've got quite a few tough games coming up. So, I don't know. What do you think, Shona?
I think they can beat anyone. This is the Bills team that have been growing and growing. And yeah, one of the sticklers they did have was Josh Allen had never beat the Chiefs. And that was the big thing they were talking about. But that's, being rectified now, and they're not going to talk about it anymore. It's like with Lamar Jackson when they kept banging on about the fact he'd never won a playoff game. And Sean McDermott obviously did look at the last game because he's a defensive coach and he would have been not happy with how that went for him and his players. So I actually don't know who's going to stop them. And I said this about the Buccaneers a couple of weeks ago, and then that all went to Pete Tong, but I genuinely don't know with the Bills who will. I think they came out the first game, they obviously lost. Their fans were going that they would go unbeaten, and that's obviously really hard to do in any league, let alone the NFL. So I think they've restocked from that and taken all the points they needed to work on. And I seriously don't know when that loss is coming.
I mean, for me, the team that I thought of in the AFC that can hang, that you're going to have to hang with the Bills potentially in the shootout, looking at them has been the Chargers. They've been really fun to watch this year. I mean, they had an incredible game against the Browns. They've also beaten the Chiefs as well this year as well, although they did their best to throw it away at the end of that game. So that was probably the team that I thought about that could, if they were in the position. I mean, they're now the favourites for that division with the Chiefs having 3 losses. They could be the highest seed in that division. They might be a team that could tackle the Bills, but certainly the Bills look like the best team in the AFC at the moment. Apart from their week 1 hiccup when everyone was doing all sorts of stupid stuff, they've come on and done really well.
Amazing. So the next topic of good old Russell Wilson. So last week, unfortunately, we saw that he obviously injured his finger in a loss to the Rams. So his official diagnosis, and Stuart, being a doctor, Shona being a future nurse, probably has a better pronunciation of this one. So it's an extensor tendon rupture and a comminuted fracture dislocation of the proximal interphalangeal joint.
Perfectly said.
Woo!
You've been practicing.
First time I've said it out loud, actually.
Good effort.
I learned the other day is closest to the point of origin in the break. Haha.
Wow.
That is, again, true. You're going to pass your course, no bother. You don't even need to keep going. That's it, done. Sorted.
Done. I know what proximal is. Done.
That's all you need to know.
So
the exterior is obviously away.
So Russell's since had surgery. So for anyone who doesn't know what that injury actually means, then, so it basically stops you from straightening out your finger, which obviously is quite important for in the ball. So he's meant to be back in about 6 to 8 weeks. But they're hoping, or he's certainly hoping, he can come back sooner. But for now, obviously, he's teaching Geno Smith everything that he's going to need to know. And whilst it's likely that the Seahawks are going to stick with him, many have speculated over who, the Seahawks might bring in if they're in a really dire situation. So I guess on that front, who would you like to see them bring in?
I personally don't see them bringing anyone in. I would like them to bring someone in. I mean, I know Kaepernick's being floated around by some of the fans, and I think it would just be great to see him back in the league, let alone for the Seahawks. There's also Cam Newton, who is still a free agent, which mind boggles me. But I think, Wilson is going to become like the biggest QB coach on the sidelines if he's allowed to be there for Geno. And I don't actually think Geno had a bad game. I think things just aren't clicking for the Seahawks at the minute. I don't really know what's quite going on. There's issues on defense, there's issues on offense. Also, they've now lost Wilson, but I don't think overall Geno had a bad performance against the Rams. I just think it wasn't clicking for the Seahawks on Thursday night.
I think if you're thinking about bringing in a quarterback to replace Russell Wilson, which is a very difficult task for anyone to do, the Seahawks need to think, are they in a win now opportunity? And if they are, they need to go and get someone, because I don't think Geno is going to be the guy that's going to get them the wins. If they're in, sadly, you guys, I don't think the Seahawks are absolutely win now, and that I don't see them being a Super Bowl contender. They probably just ride it out with Geno and see what happens. And they've got good pieces, particularly receivers who can make something happen out of nothing, and pack up the bags and wait for 2022.
I think the biggest issue people are having, particularly Seahawks Twitter, which is always a joy if we win or lose. But the issue is that obviously we've traded Jamal Adams. We've gave him his deal that he wanted, and obviously the Jets have our first round pick for next year. I mean, I'm in two minds about it because I still don't think we've done very well first round draft picks in a number of years. So but then I kind of understand the frustration because there's speculation that Russell might not end his career as a Seahawk. And then if he does leave, then you're wanting to, get that rookie quarterback in. We've just traded our first round pick to the Jets. So for Jamal Adams. So I can see the frustration, but I think we got to ride it out and see what happens. I don't personally think they'll bring anyone in. I think they'll wait until Russell's back.
Yeah. It could be interesting. I think you're right. I think they're going to wait as well. But it was kind of nice to picture who might join us and things like that.
It would be lovely, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, to get the only person you're really looking at on the free agent market is Cam Newton, I would say. And is that the best move for the Seahawks moving forward? Don't know. Anyone else you're looking at, you're going to have to trade to get them, even a backup. Yeah. And do you want to be throwing away draft picks when you've not got many? Not sure you do.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
the Pete out brigade was in full swing as well. I'm not sure that Russell has injured his finger, but apparently it was. So
where are you guys on that? The Pete out crowd.
it's a bit like I feel like all my teams have gone through it at the minute, because I had it first with Arsenal with Wenger, and now I had it with McInnes and Aberdeen, and now it seems to be happening with the Seahawks. And careful what you wish for, Hans, because it ain't going well at Aberdeen right now.
We'll end up hijacking this. No, we're not going down that route.
And yeah, well, Arsenal, they're still in rebuild. So like, how I get it, but the guy has won us a Super Bowl, so I can't be too Pete out at the minute. I still think he's got some in him, and I think our issue is our defensive coordinator. Since he came in, we've tanked in our rankings every season, which is unfortunate, because obviously when he was there the first time around, we were amazing. But that is a worrying stat, and I think that's what needs to change rather than Pete.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I really like Pete Carroll. Just something about him with the team. Only he's been there for as long as I've been a fan. So for me, it'd be really weird for him to go. But you see it in football. It's really ruthless, and that, a couple of games lost and that's it. You're out, kind of thing. So I don't know. I wouldn't like to see him go. So yeah, hopefully it doesn't.
What's your thoughts on it, Stuart?
It's a difficult one, because you then really, unless you've got someone who is a top coach, he's going to be a good coach, lined up to succeed him with a nice transition, with a good team, with a good lot of picks to kind of make it their own. I don't know if just firing for the sake of firing or getting rid is always the best option. You could end up in purgatory. The same with quarterbacks. You don't let a good quarterback out your building. Do you let a good coach go? Not unless it's his decision. There might come a time when Pete's decided, I'm too old for this game. I'm going to enjoy my retirement and my wades of cash. But yeah, I don't think he needs to get thrown out the door just yet. I think there's a lot of not so great head coaches get appointed, and do you want to go down that road? I would say you hold on until you've got something special to come in and replace him. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. I've always seen Pete Carroll deciding when he leaves the NFL, and I don't know how long he will be at the Seahawks for. He's been there a long time, and as he likes to be Benjamin Button on the sidelines, he's not really getting any younger. I wouldn't mind Jim Harbaugh or something, but I think that may be in the minority with that one.
Awesome. Well, guys, to everyone listening, thank you for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll have Dana back as well. But yeah, until then, see you next time.
Thanks, guys. And thanks, Stuart, for coming on.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.